8:14, some bad weather in the area. Be aware of that. Peyton Malone says it should be mostly gone by the afternoon when the kids come home from school. And again, I was telling my story before about hail. Let's hope we don't have any hail because we don't need that with all the roof damage in the area still hanging around from the storms and all the blue roofs you see. COVID-19 pandemic special exceptions are ending, and Louisiana Medicaid starting its annual eligibility checks for the first time since March of 2020. Dr. B, our friend Dr. Brent Wallis, Chief Medical Officer of People's Health, joins us to talk about the upcoming Medicaid unwinding, what it is, and how you can prepare for coverage renewals. Morning, Dr. B. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Tommy. I'm good. How about you?
Good to talk to you. Is it raining, hail, anything else where you are? You all right?
Nothing yet. I know. It looks pretty dark out there.
I know you, with a medical license, can control a lot of things, so please, no hail.
I hope so.
What is the Medicaid unwinding?
Yeah, so it's pretty complex, but basically people with Medicaid are evaluated every year to confirm that they're still eligible for their Medicaid benefits. And so that's usually called the Medicaid renewal or a Medicaid redetermination. But what happened at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic is the federal government created a continuous enrollment policy. And what that means is that it stopped the states from disenrolling people from the Medicaid program, even if they weren't able to prove their eligibility. And that policy actually ended on March 31st of this year.
So what does Medicaid have to do now?
So now Louisiana Medicaid has to verify or re-verify the eligibility of every person on Medicaid in the state. And then they have to either renew or end their coverage based on that eligibility. And this is a massive project, so it's going to occur over the next 12 months, and it's being called the Medicaid unwinding. It's really going to be the largest mass renewal process for Louisiana Medicaid in its history. And every state is having to do this, very similar to what Louisiana is doing.
The word yikes pops to mind. How can people prepare for this unwinding?
Yeah, you really do need to prepare for it. So, if you have Medicaid, you have to really make sure that Medicaid has your current contact information. So that includes your mailing address, your phone number, email address, any way they would get in touch with you. Even if your information hasn't changed, you want to check and make sure that they've got the updated information. And if it has changed over the last 2 years, you really need to reach out to them. You want to check your mail frequently, make sure that you're going to get any information that they send you via mail about your eligibility or your coverage. Because if Medicaid is unable to contact you, you might miss your renewal window and you could potentially lose your Medicaid coverage. So that means you wouldn't have any health insurance coverage. And that's even if you're still eligible for the program.
How would somebody go about checking or updating their Medicaid contact information?
Yeah, so that's the good part. It's relatively easy. You can go to any local Medicaid office. There's multiple ones in our area and really across the state. You can also do it online. You can go to mymedicaid.la.gov, and there's actually a self-service portal there that you can use to check your information and update it if you need to. And then, of course, you can call them on the telephone, and that number is 888-342-6207. But like I said, you've got to do this as soon as possible because this whole program is really getting up and running right now.
When do the Medicaid renewals start?
Well, so we've got about 2 million people in Louisiana that have to be checked. Their eligibility has to be checked. And so like I mentioned, the unwinding is going to occur over the course of the next year. And each person is going to be assigned a month. And during that month, Medicaid will begin the renewal process for that individual. So what that means is almost 170,000 people have to be checked per month. And the first group is going to get their renewal information by mail from Medicaid in early May, so next month. And the last group won't receive their information until April of next year.
So does that mean the unwinding is going to change the annual renewal dates?
It might. So, like I said, everyone on Medicaid is assigned a renewal month. That's when your eligibility has to be checked. So if you've been through the renewal process before, you've been assigned a month, but that may not be the same month that you're going to have to use this year. So they may assign you a new month, and then that going forward is going to be your renewal for Medicaid every year unless something else occurs to change it.
What happens during that renewal month?
So during the month that you've been assigned, Louisiana Medicaid is going to mail you a letter about your coverage. And that letter is going to tell you if the agency has already determined your eligibility or if additional information is needed before they can process that renewal and the decision can be made about your coverage.
So it is possible to have your Medicaid automatically renewed?
Yeah, fortunately for some people, Louisiana Medicaid can actually use federal data to verify your income level and determine what your eligibility is. So if that happens for you, the person's going to be notified by mail that your coverage was automatically renewed, and they won't need to take any action at all. Medicaid thinks probably about half of people in the program will receive an automatic decision, but there's a lot of people, the other half, that really are going to have to provide additional information before that decision can be made.
All right, it's 8:20 and a half. We're talking to Dr. B, Dr. Brent Wallis, Chief Medical Officer of People's Health, about the big Medicaid unwinding, which is a big old deal. We'll pick it up when we come back, talk about what happens if your coverage is not automatically renewed. 8:21 now, traffic, WWL. 8:26, Tommy Tucker, WWL, talking to Dr. B, Dr. Brent Wallis, Chief Medical Officer of People's Health. With COVID-19 pandemic special exceptions ending, Louisiana Medicaid is starting its annual eligibility checks, and that's led to Medicaid unwinding, the largest mass renewal process in Louisiana Medicaid history. So what happens, Doc, if your coverage is not automatically renewed?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, about half of the 2 million people will get renewed automatically, so that's good. But if Medicaid can't automatically renew your coverage, then they're going to need to request more information from you. And so in that instance, you're going to receive a renewal packet in the mail, and it's going to have your renewal forms and the list of all the information that they need from you to extend your coverage. You need to complete the renewal packet as soon as you get it. Don't put it on your table and not think about it for a while, because you've got to complete that in a timeline. And they need that information so they can confirm you're still eligible. You can submit it online as well through that self-service portal online that I mentioned, or you can go into their office or even call them on the phone. And there's going to be a lot of detailed instructions in that renewal packet, so make sure you read it from front to back.
How can people get help completing their renewal form if they need it?
Yeah, so there are, fortunately, a lot of options for help. You can call Louisiana Medicaid, or like I mentioned, visit your local Medicaid office. They can really sit down with you and help you complete those renewal forms. You can also request an application in an accessible format. So, if you need it in Braille or translated into another language, they can provide that to you. And then we, People's Health, are also hosting Medicaid renewal help days at our Medicare Center, which is in Metairie, right next to Party City, and also at some of our service centers around the state. And so during those events, we're going to have representatives from Louisiana Medicaid on site to help answer your questions and help you fill out those forms. And you can find all of those events and where you can go on our website at peopleshealth.com/community. So that's another great option for people.
If somebody loses Medicaid coverage during the unwinding, can they reapply?
Yeah, you definitely can. If you don't think that your Medicaid level of coverage should have changed, you can reapply for Medicaid at any time. The best way to do that is to go to their website at medicaid.la.gov and just click on the Apply or Renew Medicaid box. And then you can also go in person to the Medicaid office or call them to try to process a renewal as well.
And the time's running out, but before we do wrap it up, do you have any tips for people to avoid being scammed during this Medicaid renewal?
Yeah, anytime there's such a massive effort like this going on, there's always going to be some bad actors who try to take advantage of people. Keep in mind that Medicaid is really only going to contact you for the most part through the mail. So you really need to be alert of any phone calls that you receive or text messages or emails that claim to be from Medicaid. Medicaid's never going to randomly contact you, especially outside of that renewal window. They're never going to ask you for any money or your Social Security number or your credit card number or anything like that, and they're definitely never going to threaten legal action or a loss of your Medicaid coverage. Those are things that scammers sometimes try to do. So if you're unsure of whether a message you receive from Medicaid is real, just call the Medicaid office and they can help you confirm whether it is something you need to respond to or if it may be a scam.
And to be clear, the help days at the People's Health Center are open to people that are not even People's Health members, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. It's anybody who is trying to process a Louisiana Medicaid renewal. It doesn't matter if you have People's Health. We're happy to help you in our service center.
Thank you, Dr. B. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, Tommy. You too.
You can find out more about those renewal dates or about People's Health in general by going to peopleshealth.com. You can visit the People's Health Medicare Center Dr. B was talking about at 3017 Vets in Metairie. It's right next to Party City. Appointments are recommended, but walk-ins are welcome. You can call 1-800-978-9765. You can always follow People's Health on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. 8:30, we'll talk about medical cannabis when we come back here on WWL.